A brutal attack in Minneapolis, a suspect out on bail, and a rare move from a criminal defense attorney calling for tougher prosecution instead of soft on crime policies. Next. Brian Karalus is my guest. Good to see you. Thanks for being here, Brian.
Nice to see you. Good afternoon.
Back in April, your client, Tony Den, was out in the North Loop of Minneapolis, leaving a bar with his friend. Let's start there. What happened to Tony? What led to this tragic encounter that night?
So he was downtown Minneapolis. I've known this guy for 30 years, so this is a friend of mine. There was some type of altercation at the bar. It carried outside of the bar. This is kind of in the warehouse district, but it was outside of this bar, downtown Minneapolis, late night. My friend, Mr. Dean, was actually trying to help somebody else out. This was a dispute between other people. He wasn't actually involved in the dispute directly. And the person, one of the people that was involved in it, took a knife and literally tried to slit his throat. I mean, there's a slit like all the way down. I want to say it's probably about 8 inches, just literally try to rip his head off with a knife.
Yeah, they are horrific injuries, Brian. He was in the back of the ambulance calling his friends and family, saying his last goodbyes. Fortunately, he survived. So there's this arrest warrant issued for Camron Draper, the suspect who attacked Tony. Draper eventually was arrested and charged, but instead of more serious charges, he's only charged with second-degree assault. What was your reaction when you saw those charges from the Hennepin County Attorney's Office?
Well, when my friend called me, because I'm a criminal defense lawyer, he had questions. Should I go to court? Can I get restitution? He had a bunch of tens of thousands of dollars in medical bills. And I told him, typically I wouldn't waste your time going to court. Not much is going to happen. If this goes to trial, then you would testify. If there's a plea bargain, you have a right to give a victim impact statement at the time of sentencing. So I was explaining this stuff to him before I even knew what the guy was charged with. What shocked me was when I actually looked up the case and pulled the complaint and saw the charges. When I saw that he was only being charged with a second-degree assault, I was, as a criminal defense lawyer of 25 years, I was flabbergasted. I could not believe they charged him with the second-degree assault. This looked to me like an attempted murder, like unquestionably an attempted murder. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
You've spent decades in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. You've had to fight in court to get the charges amended to the more serious charge of first-degree assault, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But how have these soft on crime policies, in your opinion, affected the quality of life you see here in the Twin Cities?
Just to make this clear, there's a difference between if I'm representing someone versus what I see coming out of these county attorneys' offices. If I'm representing someone, I want good deals. I don't want the prosecutor to want too much time. But the crime that's going on in the cities here, and I've lived in South Minneapolis now for 13 years. I've lived in Minneapolis for over 20 years. I think this is a big part of the problem. Is they're letting people out on bail. Low bails, no bails. I mean, this guy, they set his bail at $50,000. When I actually went to court with Mr. Dean the other day to make an appearance to, be an advocate on his behalf, because I could not believe they were charging him with second-degree assault. I brought pictures to court that showed this face laying in the emergency room. This is an open wound. His entire face it looked like someone tried to cut his neck off almost. So typically I don't do that. Usually I'm the defense lawyer, but I went there as an advocate on his behalf because I was begging them to charge this person with a much more serious crime. When I got there, I expected this person to be in custody. I walked in the courtroom and I said, I thought you said he was here, because I had text messaged him and said, did they start yet? I'm coming up the elevator. Did they bring the defendant out? And he goes, the defendant's here. So when I walked in the courtroom and didn't see the defendant, I looked back at my client. I said, where's the defendant? He goes, he's out in the hallway. So I couldn't believe he was out on bail. Again, at this point, I've seen the pictures and I've talked to my friend. I know this story. So I'm looking at this going, how is this person out of custody? Does this guy have money or something? I expected maybe a $500,000 bail or more. No, the bail was $50,000. I mean, if you show that picture of Mr. Dean laying in the emergency room, and then you look at the bail amount, $50,000, again, this would make your head spin. Something's not right. There's something going on here that doesn't make sense.
And so I understand they've now amended this complaint.
Yes, they did.
But I don't think this point can be understated, Brian. You are a criminal defense attorney. And as a defense attorney, do you think Hennepin County needs to get tougher on prosecutions?
You know, if we're talking about carjacking, attempted murder, I mean, I never imagined we had to talk about being soft on attempted murder, right? I mean, for a defense lawyer to have to say, what are you guys doing to the prosecution? I've been doing this for 25 years. I've never, ever had this happen before. I've also not had any other friends that were almost murdered either. This case, I mean, this is a guy who literally had his, throat slit and almost his head cut off. And they charge him with the crime, which for most people, you could be out in 8 months. That's ridiculous. That's absurd.
And we should mention this guy has a long rap sheet, and he's out on bail with this really important perspective. Appreciate you sharing it, Brian Karalus. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That will do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We will see you next time.